to charge the damn mound. And we're going to get to now the official news, even though AJ Pierzynski already broke the news. What was it, 2 days ago?
A couple days ago on this show.
Yeah. So if you watch this show, you've known this for a while. Rumors had been spreading for a while, but it is official that Chris Getz is the new VP and GM of the Chicago White Sox. Now, we're not showing one of the tweets of it being official from everyone because we know that. I'm going to show you this tweet from our buddy Jim Bowden, who's been on here before, who said he's the perfect hire. Strong leadership skills, elite evaluator, strong communication skills, and the right person to turn around the culture in their organization. His familiarity top to bottom enhances his ability for a relatively quick turnaround too. So there are some tweets out there, and he's not the only one, talking about Chris Getz and his character and his ability. I don't know him personally, and I think the public perception, which we continue to talk about, AJ, is you went internal. It doesn't seem like they did any homework. And you, from public optics, they're going to have to prove that you're hiring somebody who's been in the organization for a long time in a somewhat prominent role, and the organization's not in a good spot. It's just a tough sell until something turns around.
Can we show that tweet again before I start?
Sure.
Please, from Jim. Perfect hire. Okay, great. I know Chris Getz. I wish him nothing but the best.
You played with him, right?
Played with Chris Getz. I know him. I see him when I go to Chicago. Listen, no problem with Chris Getz. It's not a personal thing. Strong leadership skills. Okay, we'll go with that. Strong talent evaluator. 7 years. Don't have one player that you can come up with that they've developed from the minor leagues other than guys that were top 10 draft picks or traded for from another organization.
Robert, Moncada, but those are like
Moncada was traded. Robert. Okay, Robert. But he was older. He was a Cuban guy. He didn't start in rookie ball, drafted out of high school, and work his way up.
Are they not drafted and developed dudes?
Give Andrew Vaughn, 3rd overall pick. He's supposed to be really good. Gavin Sheets was a first rounder, I believe. He doesn't even play.
Crochet
was in the minor leagues for a week.
Yeah.
And he's hurt. He ain't done anything.
Cease was a trade.
Cease trade, Kopech trade, Moncada trade, Jimenez trade, Elvis Andrews. Tim Anderson, but he was before Getz, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who? Grandal? No. I'm talking impact player. I can't find one. It's these aren't personal attacks. These are facts, right? And I wish they were better news because I'm a White Sox fan. I want them to be better. Okay, now there's also a bunch of things that people have to understand about things that have happened in this organization. And if you don't know them, I hate to bring this up, but like the Omar Vizquel situation. If you don't know about that and the Wes Helms thing that happened, that's bad. And he was in charge of these things and knew these things were going on. And nothing happened, right, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It took a public outcry for things to happen. And I played with Omar Vizquel, and I know Wes Helms. And these are things that have been out there, right? But nobody's talking about them. So for me, the problem I have with this hire as a White Sox fan, they didn't talk to anybody else. Jerry knew when he fired Rick and Kenny, he was already going here. So this is on Jerry Reinsdorf. And I like Jerry. I know Jerry very well. But this is, to me, and I hope Chris Getz proves me wrong, you got to go out and ask for other people, man. People are like Mike Rizzo. Mike Rizzo wasn't coming. Mike Rizzo was using this to get more power with the Nationals, right? But there are a lot of people. And the other thing about Chris Getz, and Kratz knows him well, Kratz played with him too, knows him. Here's the thing. He wasn't wanted by all these other organizations. It's not like, man, we need Chris Getz as our GM and VP because all these other organizations. It's not like he's Heim Bloom or what's the guy in LA, Friedman,
yep,
and all these other guys at all these other organizations, Stearns in Milwaukee, where they're like, man, we really need this guy. I hadn't heard one time where other organizations were like, man, we want Chris Getz as the leader of our organization. So to me, this is the typical White Sox, Jerry Reinsdorf, comfortable hire. And I know Chris Getz. He's nice to me when he's up in my suite every game. So we can just move him next in line. And then the next argument's going to be, Chris wasn't allowed to because Rick and Kenny. Well, then why didn't you leave and go somewhere else? Why didn't you? You could still make moves.
Mm-hmm.
You could still do things. You can go to Jerry and say, Jerry, this isn't working. Let me have a little more freedom. And Jerry will talk to Rick and Kenny. Because there was a big thing, with Kenny Jr. where allegedly Kenny Williams Jr. was working for him and there was some friction there. And I know Getz went to Jerry and said, hey, we need to clean this up, and they cleaned it up. So, there's ways around it. So don't give me that your hands were tied. Because your hands weren't tied. Just There was no players coming. So you said blame scouting, but every team has the same scouts, and they develop players from somewhere. International guys, they don't have any international guys they've signed. When's the last Latino guy they've signed, Latin guy they've signed that out of nowhere that's Framber Valdez signed for $5,000, throwing no hitters for the Astros. Those guys don't exist for the White Sox.
Well, Robert Abreu, those kind of guys, but you're saying they're professional guys.
Abreu didn't play in the minor leagues. Robert was in the minor leagues for 0 time.
Yeah, you're saying
they're already
minor league guys that
I'm talking guys you sign and you develop from a rookie ball, A ball type. And I'm not, again, the stars are going to be the stars when you draft in the top 10, but I'm talking about a 10th round pick that you're like, man, we made this dude into a stud. We developed him. There isn't that guy in the organization. And that's the thing for me as a White Sox fan. I need to see that.
Why did they interview anyone else?
Jerry makes the decision. He's the one with the power.
Even if you want him, can I bring this
Maybe
up
they
too?
did interview somebody else.
I hope that they come out and say that, because this is a big thing that I know for a fact in some very smart organizations. Kratz, when they move on from a manager or a front office member, some organizations will bring in a ton of people. They will interview them. They will bring in smart people from other orgs, and they will get intel. At the very least, they might have a pretty strong inclination on who they're hiring. They will get great intel on what's going on around the league, right? Because you're preparing for your job. You're worried about yourself as an individual. So that's my thing. Could have found out a lot. I don't know who's finding out a lot because it's Jerry, and who else is doing those interviews right now? Who is even conducting an interview besides Jerry? So it's one person. So right. So I don't think he's gaining a ton of knowledge. It's not like it's him and a team president or something.
There is no team president. Yeah. There's no anybody. It's Jerry. Oh, there's Jerry and Jerry. Just like when they hired Tony La Russa, there was Jerry and Jerry, right? When Jerry makes the decision, it happens. Fine. But we already went through the whole thing. I went through it with La Russa and Dayton Moore when Dayton Moore was rumored. And who knows, Dayton Moore probably will still come in. I don't know that. But I knew Getz was, I'd heard through many people that Getz was already done.
Yep.
Right? But, Tony La Russa is the one guy that Jerry Reinsdorf listens to more than anybody. And do you have the kiss of approval from basically Tony La Russa and Jim Thome, which I think Getz has both clearly? You're good. The new GM.
You're good to go.
When I talked to Getzy about the job when he took the job first or second year, it was one of those conversations we were talking about it. I'm like, dude, it's so crazy. You're a player development guy because you were a huge dork player, just joking around. And he goes, there is a lot to clean up. And so this was at the beginning. Now, what happened in the last 7 years? I don't know. Jim Bowden never said he might be a strong talent evaluator. They just might not have had any talent. At some point, the biggest, to me, besides Jerry, I'm just looking at an outsider's point of view. The biggest problem for the White Sox is they don't ever fire anybody. So I'm assuming it's the same thing in the minor leagues. So if you're just always keeping your job, then what's ever going to change? And to me, unless Getzy gets the opportunity to fire people and keep people accountable, just like Ozzie said when he was talking to you on the Legends territory, I don't see how anything's going to change. And the whole you didn't hear anything about Chris Getz's name around the league, all that stuff, in my opinion, it's self-promotion. You hear about somebody's name, and we're going to have Tom Verducci on. I'm sure he's self-promoted certain guys as GMs, so they can get another contract or whatever it is, getting their, because writers will promote these guys based on what these guys are saying. Hey, promote me, or yeah, you can promote me. But so I don't know. I know Getzy as a person, and you alluded to that too, AJ. I hope he does an awesome job because he really is a great dude. And whether he's going to be a good GM or not, ultimately, we don't know.
Mr. Jones.
These guys are very passionate, especially AJ, about the organization.
I think he knows the org pretty well.
Yeah, you know the organization well.
It's like you, Adam, when you talk about the Orioles.
Yeah.
I want Chris Getz to be awesome. I want him to be an incredible general manager. I played with Chris Getz. I've known Chris Getz for 15 years, right? I want him to do well.
You watch every damn White Sox
I watch it
game.
still every damn White Sox game. I don't know why. I mean, dude, why don't they go and hire Michael Elias? Fuck you and your Orioles, Jonesy. Let's go get him.
That is a great point. Is a friend I texted a friend of mine who's a White Sox fan, and he was like, "Hey, why didn't we go outside the box? We've been inside of this box for so long, and like you said, go out and just change it up, get somebody brand new." Rizzo is not leaving. We all know that. But there's other GMs out there and people who want to be GMs and candidates. But you said they stayed within house. I don't know the White Sox in particular that way, but it seems like with the last 3 years, with the La Russa hire, the not getting along with the players, and then it goes to the expectations. They obviously have not met those expectations, and then the trades, and it's a shit show over there. And hopefully, I like Getz too. I played against him. I hope he does a fantastic job, but again, he has an uphill battle.
We're just saying it like it is. And that's important here. So we'll continue this. We'll ask Tom Verducci about this when he swings back, and a lot to get to with Tom, including the waiver wire extravaganza today, Shohei Ohtani situation, biggest flop in his mind in terms of, Padres, Mets, Yanks, Cardinals, surprise teams. A lot to cover with Tom Verducci coming up. And for our poll question, scan the QR code on your screen, or I already voted at watchstadium.com/foul territory. Who has the best chance to upset the Braves in the playoffs in the NL? Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers, or other? Be right back with SI's Tom Verducci. Okay, we have AJ and Hawk in the booth together.
Watches.
Nice. How does he say he didn't see that?
Yeah, he
Put
was
his
seeing
hand
it.
up.
He wasn't catching it, I promise you.
Wow. For the podcast crowd, we show AJ with a nice left-handed grab and a little bow to the crowd sitting next to Hawk Harrelson. He didn't see that. He put his hand up.
When I'm like, heads up.
Yeah.
And then he I think he saw it when it got close.
Yeah.
Dude, I was doing the game with him. He didn't even the players, he didn't know who was on the field. So you think you could see a ball coming at him?
No.
The legend
that's
grows.
fair. The legend
AJ's
does grow.
legend in Chicago grows. The new Northsiders.
That's right. Soon. The North Side White Sox, South Side Gummy Bears.
That's amazing.